folks. So, today I'm going to be doing a little show and tell of some old records, vinyl. I was sitting in the garage for a while. Now, I haven't looked at everything in this record set, so I don't even know what's in here. I'm kind of expecting some that I remember, but they may or may not be in this pile. And I also want to mention that, I'm not a expert in these bands or in music in general, the music industry and that kind of thing. I'm going to be kind of just talking about what I remember about these records. If I even remember anything, some of them, they might surprise me what's in here. So if there's an educational aspect to this video, it's probably more on the cultural side. I'm going to try to talk about that whole experience of records and albums and just maybe some things I remember, things that stand out to me as I look through some of these old albums, kind of a snapshot in time, maybe trigger some memories. So with that, I'll get started. So this record is a good example of this idea of records being sort of a cultural thing. We didn't have Spotify and things like that when I was a kid. And so you couldn't just get any song you wanted, anytime you wanted. And when a new record came out, if you heard about it sort of through the kid network, the kid version of Twitter or whatever, which would have just been the playground or the whatever social circles you ran in, and you would find out about these records or these songs, and you'd want to get them. And this is a good example of how these old records, these old albums were really entire experiences. It wasn't just about playing the song and playing the record. You got this artwork. The whole thing was getting a new record was a whole sort of experience and event in itself. So you first got the record and you saw this artwork, and that's the outer artwork. And then, for example, this record opens up then to all this artwork on the inside. And this particular record, this is Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This record is a story, or the record tells a whole story. And then this artwork is kind of depicting that story and walking you through it. So you could be sitting here, you'd put this record on, and you could be sitting here and going through this artwork while you played the record. And a new record only came out so often, you only bought so many records, so you wanted to know everything. So you would read all the liner notes and all this info, and then you'd put that record on, and then you'd share it with your friends, and you'd listen to them together. So it was quite an experience. It wasn't just hitting the play button. But this is the album Tarkus by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This is, see if it shows a year, 1971 is the year on that. I also have, a lot of you might be interested in listening to some of these, so, call it up on your Spotify or your Apple Music or whatever you're using these days, whatever music service you like, and check it out. You might enjoy some of these. Maybe you never heard of them before. Obviously, many of these records are pretty famous, and people probably have heard of them. And this would be an example. Certainly, Journey. Everybody's heard that. If you've ever been to a sporting event, you've pretty much heard Journey. So this is one of those type songs they use all the time. And the big one on this record was the Don't Stop Believin', and these guys were huge at this time. This would be like late 70s. And a lot of people had these records. But that's what the original album looked like back then. I think I'll keep them in the same order, although I don't know why. They're not in any particular order. Like, this is a good example of a record that, you know, I remember having this record, but I wasn't a huge Jackson Browne fan, so I'm not sure how I ended up deciding I loved this. But I think Boulevard is one of the big ones on here. This is 1980, Jackson Browne. This record was pretty popular. These songs get played a lot on the nostalgia channels. You've probably heard some of these songs from Supertramp. But again, we get back to that artwork. I mean, you just got this really cool artwork going on this cover. With this waitress. With this kind of insane look on her face. Breakfast in America is this record. Got a song called The Logical Song. That one you might have heard. Again, look that up. Supertramp, Breakfast in America was the album. And again, you've probably heard some of these songs in rotations on, say, like an oldies playlist or something like that. Now this record was, I loved this band when I was a kid, Cream. They were one of those super bands, I guess, you know, the 3-person bands, super groups, that's what they were called. And in some sense, they were kind of before my time, but I still liked this band when I discovered them later. And I got some of their records are pretty close to when they were really out there. But I love this band. I love the drummer, Ginger Baker. Of course, Eric Clapton was in that band. And this is a classic record. This is, you know, another good example of this idea of the artwork of these old records. I don't know if anyone knows what this is. If you're not into this band or this era of music, this may be a super familiar record that you really know if you're into it. And if you're not, you may have no idea because it doesn't say anything on here. But on the end cover, you can see it says Led Zeppelin, In Through the Outdoor. And the big song on this record is probably Fool in the Rain. You've probably heard that record. I mean, that song. It's a fantastic song. I love the drums on that song. John Bonham. And this band, I remember these guys, Steve Miller Band. Again, this is some music that you've probably heard in. I'm gonna let this car go by. But yeah, Steve Miller Band. This is a Circle of Love, and again, this is some of this music I'm pretty sure you would have heard on some oldies records or oldies playlists if you aren't familiar with this band or a lot of this music. Circle of Love is probably obviously the hit on that record, from that record. You know, and this is an interesting one. So this is Thompson Twins, and you know, this is that crossover time when I was kind of getting into, you know, a lot of the records we're going to find in this pile are going to be sort of more rock type records. But this period I sort of really got into punk and alternative music and new wave. And it was kind of a crossover though, because it wasn't too long before I pretty much wasn't buying records anymore by that time, and either doing tapes or before too long CDs, cassettes, and then later of course CDs. So this would be, there weren't that many records. My record purchasing would have probably ended in the late 70s, early 80s. But here's an example of a new wave type band. Kind of see that artwork. Thompson Twins, The Name of Love. 12-inch dance edition. There you go. So that would have been something that was played in clubs at the time. This is these guys were sort of a novelty band, if you will. The Beat Farmers. Tales of the New West. I think the big song I remember off this was Happy Boy. I'll have to dig that out and play that. I kind of vaguely remember that, but I don't remember it that well. You know, here's a record from the collection, another classic. So this is Diana Ross, Why Do Fools Fall in Love? Sense of what these artwork and these photographs and these old records were like. And here's a funny one. Television's Greatest Hits. How about that? That's the record that we had. Featuring Don Pardo. That was like the game show guy. And just looking at this, it's quite a timeline of TV shows, or TV in general. Begins in 1950, and this album, we must have got it around that time. It ends in 1975. It's got all the biggies. Rin Tin Tin, Perry Mason, Green Acres, F Troop, anybody remember that one? The Flintstones, of course, everybody knows that song. Batman. Some of these shows I kind of don't even remember that they had a song, but, I mean, they all did, I guess, but they don't have that catchy tune like a Flintstones type tune. But yeah, we had a record of television's greatest hits. Check that out. There's a lot on here. Oh, it's one of my favorite bands. This record, Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. Got some great songs on here. Psycho Killer. Once in a Lifetime. One of my all-time favorites, Life During Wartime. Some great songs. Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. I also, somewhat before I got into Talking Heads, I really loved the Police for a while. Again, great drumming. Stuart Copeland. This was kind of one of their later albums. Synchronicity is super popular. These songs are played all over the place to this day. But frankly, some of their earlier stuff was, I liked it better. It's kind of more simple and punk. This was a heavier Sting influence on this Synchronicity album. Good songs though. I played the heck out of it in its day. But in hindsight, I kind of like the older Police stuff better. Children Sex Gang. I don't even know what this is. It was $11.99 though, so it must have been a special thing. Marietta Mayer, Children's Prayer. I really don't know what this is. Andy Sex Gang. I just don't remember this. So there's something I'll have to look into. Special remix, long version. It's probably something being played in the clubs. I was into it at that time. And here's a Christmas record. Can't get too many Christmas records. Got not all the classics, but of course a number of classics on there. Let's see what this guy is. Some liner notes fell out of something. I'll have to try to figure out where those go. Oh, Dead Kennedys. There you go. Oh, Let Them Eat Jelly Beans. So this is basically a compilation record. This was kind of when Reagan was the president. We didn't like. And it's basically a punk collection. Or compilation, I guess I should say. Some good songs on here, if I recall. Let Them Eat Jelly Beans. Punk music. Early 80s. So obviously these are some liner notes. Oh, you know what? I think these came out of this Let Them Eat Jelly Beans record. I think these are some of the liner notes for the different songs that are in there. You got Dead Kennedys, Circle Jerks. Yeah, so that's what that is. I'll take a look at that. I might take a look at that later. But that's classic punk rock from that era. This one is also kind of a new wave band, the Untouchables, kind of a ska music. Free Yourself. You probably maybe have heard that song if you listen any oldies. Whiplash, the Untouchables, classic ska band. Those were a lot of fun in concerts or in the clubs back in the day. Okay, Thomas Dolby. There's another classic. It's got that song Hyperactive, but also this is absolutely a classic record. Everything on this Flat Earth record is just really good stuff. I have the CD of this now. I should say who listens to CDs anymore, but I had that CD for a long time. One, I didn't really listen to records anymore. But this record was one I got the CD for later as well, because it's a great record. I love that record. Here's another new wave band, the B-52s. Party Out of Bounds, Private Idaho, Quiche Lorraine. These are all fun songs. I'm sure, again, if you've listened to, any kind of wacky oldies or new wave playlist, I'm sure you've heard the B-52s. They, of course, were known for that big hair. Kind of ironically, of course. The Age of Consent, Bronski Beat. This is also, I guess you would call it new wave, and that may not be what they wanted to call themselves, I'm not sure, but this was club music, fun stuff. The Bronski Beat. Look them up on Spotify. Enjoy it. The Romantics. I love that band. They were a kind of crossover band. They were popular, and I think a lot of their popularity was in the MTV era, the early MTV era, where videos made a big difference. This has Stone Pony, Tomboy. You probably heard those songs somewhere along the line. I also like this band because they were fun to watch. The drummer was also a vocalist. So some of the songs were by the drummer vocals, which is cool. Here's some classics. London Philharmonic Orchestra. This is Neil Young. So again, as a kid, I was way into this. I love this record. I played the heck out of it. And it's still a good record. I still play these songs sometimes. Some great Neil Young guitar. Neil Young live performances. And that's what this is. This is a live performance. Live Rust. Neil Young with Crazy Horse. That was the name of the band. Well, this is Loggins and Messina. Again, not a group that I was super into, so I can't exactly tell you why I even have this record. I wasn't into it that much, but there must have been some song on here I wanted. So I got this record. I'm not saying they're a bad band, they just weren't one of my, not a band I listened to like I did some of these other bands. But yeah, look at that. Loggins and Messina. Kind of a cool picture on the back with them sitting around an old truck. Now this is a band, of course. This is a classic band. You have to love these guys. The Clash. And this is, of course, a classic record, combat rock. It's got those big songs everybody knows. Rock the Casbah. Again, an MTV era band for sure. I mean, they were before that, but their popularity was greatly launched or improved or increased, I guess I should say, by that whole MTV era. Know Your Rights. Should I Stay or Should I Go? Hey, if you haven't heard those, I mean, come on, you gotta go listen to some Clash. Great record. Great band. And this is a band not a lot of people know, but I remember this record heavily. Oh, it's just going to get me kicked off YouTube, that photo. I hope not. But this is a band called Blind Faith. And it was Stevie Winwood. And it had Ginger Baker, who was the drummer I mentioned from earlier, that was in Cream. And this was another band he was in. Kind of psychedelic rock stuff. Mid-70s, late 70s. You can again see that artwork that comes with these records. I don't know, to cover that up? I'm not sure. Is that a violation of YouTube? I don't know exactly what this is. This looks like another compilation record. Probably a bunch of hardcore punk, Berkeley hardcore, Special Forces. Maybe the whole record is Special Forces. Maybe it's all Special Forces. So, but that's more punk rock. Early 80s. Oh, here's another. No, this is not the album. This is the inner liner to it. So maybe this goes with that other Bronski Beat record. It ain't necessarily so. Again, look that up. You might enjoy it. Bronski Beat. It was fun. But I'll have to try to put that back together. And here's another classic. Most people know this record and then this band, the Sex Pistols, Never Mind the Bollocks. And it's got, all those classics. Anarchy in the UK, God Save the Queen. If you listen to any punk rock at all, you've heard those songs. Classic record, late 70s. I want to say it came out in 77. Yep, that's what the number here is. But obviously, people still play that record today, and it was popular punk music well into the 80s. Yellow? I don't know what this is. Again, I don't know why I have this. I don't know what band this is. I don't remember the history of this at all. There must have been something on here in my network, my circle, that said I had to have it. I don't know what it is. To be honest, I don't remember. I'll have to spend a little time to look that up. This was a classic. This would be mid-80s, I want to say. Suicidal Tendencies. They were an LA punk band. Very, very, very famous. Had some great stuff. Institutionalized, I think, was the big hit, quote unquote, if there is a hit. If you can't have a hit in punk rock, I don't know. But Suicidal Tendencies, Institutionalized, fun song. The other songs on that record are great too. I played the heck out of that record too. I played that everywhere. Romeo Void, this is another new wave type band. So this was probably early 80s. Yeah, 81. Romeo Void. Oops, there's a 45. It's like a Christmas record or something. Yeah. This is a 45. You can see this was a different format. These are, when I was a little kid, these 45s is where you bought music and you played them on your little sort of like desktop record player, all integrated, where it was the record, where it was the turntable and a little amp and a little speaker all integrated into a little box. And you would get these 45s and you were just so excited to play them. And there was just one side. This is where the term A-side, B-side comes from, where the big hit would be the A-side. And then whatever else they were going to throw on there would be the B-side. And sometimes, ultimately, the B-sides would be, the long, enduring songs sometimes. And maybe the hit still around, but sometimes those B-sides become super popular. But yeah, as a kid, I remember saving up, to buy a single like this, and a 45 single. And I remember it being about $1. So like $1, which is a pretty good amount of money when I was a kid. And you'd get that one single. And it's kind of funny that when Apple kind of finally broke through the music industry with digital music, that they were also $1 a song. Although I guess you could say we got $1. We got 2 songs for $1. It says there was a B-side. Although 9 times out of 10 we're just buying it for that A-side. But the B-side was kind of the bonus. This is also a new wave performer, and I kind of vaguely remember this, but I don't remember a lot about it. So, as I said in the beginning, I wasn't going to go through and do research on all these because I just thought I'd do a little ramble. But if you guys would like me to look into these a little more, or any specific ones, go ahead and send me a comment and message me on Instagram, whatever, and I can do it. But I did that kind of specifically, intentionally, I should say, that I wasn't going to go research all these records ahead of time. I was just going to do a little live ramble of this stack of records from the garage that I haven't looked at in literally probably 20 years. This one is a great record. Leon Redbone. This is a really fun record. Again, you've heard some of these songs before. I would wager somewhere. Got another car. I think that was a truck again. Anyway, Leon Redbone. This is fun music. This is good stuff. Good stuff. Put that aside. See that again, that cover artwork, fun stuff. Here's another classical record. Brahms. Hungarian Dances. There you go. Pretty wide spectrum there, from punk rock to classic. This is another classical album. You got Pachelbel's Canon, so you got a bunch of Baroque music on here. Good stuff. We got married. I played Pachelbel Canon was our song, our when we walk down the aisle. General public, okay. All the rage. This is a crossover band, new wave punk, I guess you would say, maybe. This was Chuck Mangione. This is probably another one of these songs you've probably heard somewhere along the line in a movie or who knows what. It gets used all the time. It's a very popular trumpet riff that you, if you hear it, you'd recognize it. I suspect somewhere you've heard it. Here's another Journey album. This one's Departure. Again, you can see the kind of cool artwork that we had on these old records. This is 1980. It's got Any Way You Want It. You probably heard that song. Journey. Okay, so this is some kind of a big... oh, okay, so this is Yes. Band called Yes, and it's one of these kind of, you can see this artwork, this thing's obviously a big, I think it's got multiple albums in here. I think this is another one of those storyteller type albums. It's more than I can get in the frame, because it opens up into a big, all the way open. Look at that. Maybe it goes that way. Yeah, I guess it goes that way. So yeah, it's a band called Yes. Kind of an experimental music band, I would say, I guess you call them. I don't remember for sure. So, that's all those records. You can see, not a huge stack, relatively small stack. And we started with this one, so we'll end with it. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little show and tell of some old records. And hope you found it relaxing. I'll see you soon.